Hey kids, we have with us today the one and only Miss Cheryl McCain.
Hi.
Cheryl, thank you for coming.
No, thank you for having me.
How you been?
Good, good. Recovering.
Recovering.
Yeah.
You recently had a knee replacement surgery.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And
March
that
1st.
that was a hell of a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Oh. No, it was not fun.
No. It's. I saw the pictures that you had of your knee wide open.
Yeah.
I saw that. And I'll be honest, I worked in the hospital for 22 years, and there were occasions I was in the operating room and saw some of that. And you better be glad you were asleep.
Yes. I think my greatest fear was waking up in the middle of surgery.
Oh, you better be glad you were asleep, because they get in there with hammers and stuff.
I made the big mistake of watching one of the surgeries on YouTube, and I just started crying.
Give me the good stuff.
Yes.
But you seem to be doing real well.
Yeah.
Your rehab was really, really good.
I'm still going to physical therapy 3 times a week, but I'm getting stronger and getting better. And the greatest goal is that the greatest thing out of all of it is I'm not in any more pain.
Right.
So I was in a lot of pain, and a lot of people. I won't say a lot of people. Some people thought I was just like always complaining or whatever, but listen, I feel like I was in not saying some 80-year-olds were doing better than I was. Like, that's how much pain I was in. It affected my whole entire body. My alignment was way off, which affected my back. It affected just everything. And it's even in the second day afterwards, I just noticed being able to stand with better posture, sit with better posture. My back didn't hurt. So it's a great improvement.
It's an amazing thing. I think practically everyone in my family, besides myself and my father, have had joint replacements. Oh. Knees, shoulders. My sister had both knees, both shoulders done. There's hip replacements in my family. Several people had their knees done.
Same.
I have an uncle. I'm an Army veteran too, airborne.
Thank you for your service.
And thank you. And my uncle, all of my uncles, my father, they were all service members. And one of my uncles spent a lot of time jumping out of airplanes too, but a lot of it was in combat zones during Vietnam. And so when he came back after he retired with 33 years, and he came back and he had to have all kinds of work done on his hips, his knees, from all that jumping, and it pretty much ruined his legs.
It will do that.
It really did that impact, I mean. But now that you're on the heel, you're on the mend.
Yes.
And you're getting around.
Yes.
Without crutches.
Yes. And a walker. I had a walker too.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about Obscura Lux, fine arts, photography. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I started out shooting in 2014. And while I was studying photography at the Art Institute when they were here, I couldn't figure out what direction I wanted to go. So I was shooting everything. They was like, what do you shoot? I shoot everything. I was just like, I shoot weddings, I shoot maternity shoots, all of this stuff. But I after a couple years or a few years, I just got kind of disenchanted with trying to, I wouldn't say trying to, but I got disenchanted of, because people don't want to pay you your worth. And I've even had some people tell me, well, I never book with you because you charge too much. I was like, you never asked me how much I charge. And they just assumed off, I'm gonna just toot my own horn. I just assume I guess they assume off the quality level and what they saw that I charge a whole lot. And I certainly didn't. I mean, I was just starting out, and I wasn't trying to, break people's pocket, But at the same time, my good friend Kate McKinnon, she would tell me, you're underselling yourself. She would tell me that all the time, and I'd be like, I know, Kate, but I understand where I'm at. This is Jacksonville. But then, probably about maybe 3 years ago. I just decided to say, you know what, I don't want to do that no more. I just want to be free to shoot whatever I want or create or collaborate with other artists. So I said, I'm going to go into the fine art realm. And I did just that. And I have to say it has been very rewarding to make that decision. Although it was a tough decision because you're not making money readily. You're spending more money because you're printing, you're framing, if you have to put together a series, for an exhibit, you have to do all of that. And it can become expensive, even though it's digital.
Right.
Yeah. So now, I'm a collector of cameras, and I have a lot of film cameras. I think I'm maybe close to 100 cameras at this point.
Wow.
And my oldest camera being a 1903 Corona Royal 5x7 view camera. That's a lot to say. But that's the grandmama of my collection, and I do intend on utilizing that camera for a project that I have in mind coming up, and learning wet plate or dry plate techniques and processing film. Those are the things I really, really want to learn. But not many schools or institutions are teaching that any longer.
Right.
So AI.
I have an uncle that used to have a dark room.
Yes.
In his house.
Yes.
And that was his hobby. His hobby wasn't so much taking the pictures as it was developing the film. He just enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's the
he loved his little dark room.
Right, it's the process. And so it's, that hands-on and being able to, I want to learn how to dodge and burn, like in Photoshop. That term exists in Photoshop, dodge and burn, because that's what they did in the darkroom. If it's places underexposed, overexposed, that's where they had to dodge and burn. So those are the things that I want to learn, and I definitely want to look to, the late 1800s, that process in photography, because I love the history photography. You name it, everything about photography.
Well, the digital world has changed photography a lot, and actually, it was one of the factors that really made a boom, like you talk about in wedding photography.
Yes.
It made a boom because you can take so many pictures at the reception, at the wedding, at the post party, and then if you think about it, some of the best black and white images I can recall. From growing up in some of the photography books and everything, Ansel Adams, he didn't know what a digital camera was.
No,
that man, he would take those once-in-a-lifetime shots with...
Right. And see, the thing is, and this is what I always tell people, is digital is easy. And I know that might come off as sounding arrogant, but it actually is, because it's accessible to everyone. Everyone that has a mobile phone now, you can take a picture.
Oh, yeah.
But, we talk about the quality level and the capability of taking a good picture when it comes down to composition and all that good stuff. But it's easy. You take a photo, and even being a professional photographer, or even some of the semi-professional, and you take pictures, guess what? You're going to look at it. I don't like that. Delete. That's called chimping. So, and so that you have that instant gratification, or instant being able to say, I don't want that, and then it could be a subpar photo, throw a filter on it, and it just changes. So you have all of that digital access. But back then, you have however many exposures on your roll. That's it. So many chances,
and so many rolls that you can take with you.
So many chances not to mess up, and that was the same with Polaroid. And for example, with the view camera, you have two chances. You got two exposures in one, thing, and you slide it in, remove the cap or hit the shutter. That's it. Hope for the best. Turn it around. Do it again, and then you hope for the best once you take it to process it. That sort of thing. So I won't say I'm disenchanted with digital, because it's handy, it's quick, it's easy, but I now want to challenge myself more and go into film, and even further back with wet plate and glass plate photography. And
the what did they call the process? The silver coated plates?
That's the silver plate, which is 10 types. 10 types.
Right.
And they use the silver coating on it for the process.
Well, that's a whole different training process. If you're, let's say for instance, you're somebody that has spent their entire time, let's say, taking pictures. Let's say some of the youth that is coming into photography now, they grew up with digital cameras. They grew up with the computers. They grew up with Photoshop. They grew up with the 20 megapixel phone. I have a Google 4XL, and it takes fantastic pictures. I've told myself I was going to get a camera for studio work, and when we go out and do remotes, the producer and I. But heck, I've got me a kick-ass long. And I went and got one of those gimbals for it, for stabilization.
Yeah,
it's
I have
really
one
cool.
of those.
It's
Yeah.
really cool.
They're really good.
Mine's malfunctioning right now, by the way, but but those are really good to have. They're handy. They're real handy,
Yeah.
and everyone can access them now.
Exactly. But, you know, the younger generation is also looking back to Polaroid for an example.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of cool when I see a kid with a Polaroid. I got like 19 of them, and I see a kid out on the street with a Polaroid, or even some of the old school cameras, you know, and they're now looking to film. And so, and many artists are utilizing film and Polaroids to incorporate it into their art.
Right.
So
right.
it's, and that's been for a few years now, and I hope it keeps up, and it's kind of good that they're looking in that direction and looking back and kind of embracing those old processes.
And I'm glad to see also in places like the Jack's Art and Music School, Jack's Jams, that they're also helping to teach students, you know, the basics, going back to the basics, the earlier techniques of their art, their craft, their art, whether it be painting or multimedia or any number of things, you know, teaching them start with the old school methods, and you know, that's,
but that's where the masters were, and
that's
so,
it.
And I had a mentor. He passed away last year, named Gary McAwee, and he was part of Southlight Gallery. He's a member of Southlight Gallery.
I love that gallery.
Me too.
I loved it.
And he also shot Rod Stewart when he was with Faces.
Oh, really?
And he shot Uriah Heep. He shot Bruce Springsteen. He came here to Jacksonville after Born to Run. And I've seen these images. Leon Russell is another one. And I've seen these images. We're talking film slides. There's film slides and just films and sleeves of these images. And we curated, I helped him curate a rock and roll show at the during the Corks Open Studios the prior year. And it came out. It was amazing. It was just awesome to be a part of that process and to be able to work with him and just talk to him about his time as a photographer and then what he thought about the digital age. And, you know, he had some great gems, and I was honored to be able to work with him.
Right.
And so
you know Joe Talentino.
No, I can't.
No. He does the I Know Jack's program.
Oh, no, I think I
He's
do.
been with us a couple of times,
Okay.
and he, back in his earlier days, toured with a lot of bands, shooting video clips and stuff like that. And now he has his own video program going into like its 10th season, I believe it is.
Nice.
He's been doing it for a while, and he did the same thing. He toured around with big name bands and did video footage and stills for them while they were on the road, and you know, he learned from it, worked at a couple of radio stations, came to Jacksonville, started his own TV show, and boom. Yeah, and he's been aired on CW17, I think, for a little over 10 years, something like that. So, real good friend of ours. Going forward, do you see any instances of having some installations of some of your artwork, or no plans in the works yet?
Not as of yet. Recovery is number one.
Oh, yeah.
But I do have some projects that I would like to do in the near future, hopefully. And I have done a few exhibits. Last year, although it wasn't a great year for most artists, but honestly, it was a pretty good year for me as a photographer and artist. So I exhibited at Yellow House, the exhibit that Shawana created called Magic, Mirth, and Mortality, Musings on Black Womanhood. And it was truly an honor to be a part of that. I exhibited at the Ritz, Through Our Eyes exhibit that actually started out ended towards in the beginning of the year, and it got extended for a little bit because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And but I've been able to exhibit outside the city too. Chris Ellert Art Museum down in St. Augustine, and Good News Arts Gallery, which was grand opening exhibit in Gainesville, High Springs.
Well, you want to hang out with me for a little bit longer and talk about that series you had at the Yellow House?
Yes.
Well, we'll be right back and talk about some of the stuff she's got going forward. Stick around.
Hey, yo, Mal, what's up?
Just trying to put you up on Relevant, yo. It's a new community chat app. I partnered with them to develop the Uplift, bro. We're off that other book, bro. We're doing the Victor Green style now, yo. Download ASAP.
Okay, cool. I'll download it now. Yo. All right.
Yo.
So I downloaded Relevant. What is the Uplift?
It's a new chat platform for the black community, exclusively on Relevant.
So what if I wanted to get my grub on with the black-owned restaurant?
Absolutely. In the category called Eat Up, you can find all the black-owned restaurants and grubbing in there.
So what if I wanted to go higher with my education at a historically black college?
Of course, you can find it inside of the Wise Up category. You can also politic with other black professionals on Power Up, a location-based community to do business and collaborate ideas. We got Speak Up for black community activists, Rise Up for career seekers, and Coming Up for talented rising black stars, all in one place. And the content changes based on the location of your city. Yo, it's going to be the next big thing. Find your vibe, exclusively on Relevant.
So Cheryl, let's give a little bit of time to those the series you were talking about that you had displayed over at the Yellow House.
Yes.
The meaning behind it and the series itself.
Right. That exhibit was the brainchild of Shawana Brooks, the amazing Shawana Brooks.
Love her.
I love her too. And it was called Magic, Mirth, and Mortality, musings on black motherhood. And which I'm a mom, and it was basically musings that, and if you follow her on Facebook, you know of her
musings
about her, her pregnancy, that whole process, and even once he was born, and he was born premature, and he's the community's baby. We love him so much, Little Ro, and. But it also looked at statistics when it came down to black women in childbirth. Statistically, black women are dying in childbirth.
Yes.
And that should not be in this day and time. So, prenatal care and also generational curses. When it comes to black motherhood, dealing with, the struggle of worrying about your children, being your black sons and daughters. That was one of my greatest worries, is when my son left home. So I know what that feels like. Right. And the images that I shot was one of Ebony Payne and her daughter, Miss Mahogany. I call her Queen Mahogany. And she always have Mahogany with her, and I love that she immerses Mahogany in the art and in everything that she does. I have a photo of a young lady named Tyler and her daughter. She was graduating from UNF, and she's in her cap and gown walking up these stairs, and her daughter is holding her hand. And that's a great image. And
absolutely.
I have one other photo of my aunt helping my cousin in her wedding dress that I shot at the wedding. And so these connections of mothers with their children, those were the three images that I had exhibited there. And it was a very powerful exhibit. A lot of people came to tears even with what they read and the images that they saw. And it was just overall a great exhibit, and I was truly honored to be a part of it.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And speaking of Shawana, her and Aaron recently did an online thing about black girlhood.
Yes.
They had the online webinar.
Right. And it's a beautiful exhibit in tribute to, black little girls. And and I love that, the representation, because a lot of artwork don't depict us and depict us in a certain light. So one of the little girls looked very much like my little niece. So that's one of my favorite pieces that she painted.
Well, there's a recently when Vice President Kamala Harris was elected, they were showing the picture of her walking down the sidewalk, and the shadow was the young little girl going to school. There's a big print of that over at Mackey's in Orange Park. Mackey's Munchies.
That's powerful.
She's got a big print of that in there. of just the little girl.
Oh,
The shadow itself.
that's so.
And it really did have a powerful message for those that took the time to read the message.
Right.
You know, if they weren't, you know, privy to any of the history, which unfortunately far too many people aren't.
Right. But even the imagery speaks volumes.
It certainly
itself,
does,
you know,
absolutely.
so
And she's still catching flack. Kamala Harris, she's still catching flack.
it's just the way it is.
Well, you
It's
know,
just the way it is. But you know, the great thing is that she probably caught flack throughout her whole entire career.
Absolutely.
And
So I was
so
going to say, you know, all politicians have to struggle to get up to that level,
exactly
to where they're at.
But some
to get
have
to Washington,
some have to struggle a little more than
a
others.
little harder,
Okay,
a little harder.
and so she, you know, but if she shook them off, and
Yep.
this is where
Yep.
this is why she's where she's at now.
Right.
So love her or hate her, it's still a great thing to see, and
Mm-hmm.
representation matters.
Absolutely. And there's been, of course, the chatter that, you know, the next president will be Kamala. That'll be an uphill battle for her because, you know, Obama had such a struggle, but then he stayed there for 8 years
Yes.
and turned the economy around.
Yes, he did.
Every time, he did turn it around.
Yes.
Every time we've picked up a Republican president, and this is just not me spewing because I don't agree with the GOP, but you can look at numbers. Every time the GOP has taken control of the House, the Senate, and the White House, the economy has always tanked. It is every single time tanked. In the tune of millions and millions of dollars, the national debt, the deficit. And then our Democratic president comes in, changes things around a little bit, shakes it up a bit, and the economy turns around.
Right.
It happens every time.
It happens every time. They always end up cleaning up the mess, basically.
Bill Clinton left the office with a surplus and not a debt. So, I mean, the numbers don't lie.
True. That's true.
Do you look forward to doing any more series like that along those lines?
Well,
Something that, you know, sends out a message?
Yes, and but I do look kind of beyond doing kind of like a docu-series. But sometimes I like to just I'm kind of random when it comes down. Like, oh, look at that tree. I want to take a picture of that.
Oh, you see
or
beauty in
something.
everything.
Yes, and so, but it's kind of, well, the next series that I would like to do is a docu-series on the Gullah Geechee culture and Jacksonville Gullah Geechee community here and also in South Carolina. And
all up the eastern coast up to
Right.
Carolinas, all through Tybee Island. There was a big presence there.
Right. So that's one of my goals. I know that's going to be a long process. This nothing is going to happen within a weekend or a month, or probably take maybe a couple years to do.
It could.
You know, as far as research and then making the trips and connecting with people.
You should
and
hook up with Shelton. He's written several articles on it.
Really, definitely.
Yes,
Shelton,
he has.
I'll be
And
looking
American
for
Beach.
you.
and he included in some of his other studies of the East Coast, you know, the American Beach
Now,
settlement.
American Beach, I've shot out there a couple of times and kind of did a series themed called Channeling the Beach Lady. And I shot that with my good friend Regina Birdsong. And she was one of my muses that I've shot over the years. And they were absolutely gorgeous photos. And I remember meeting the beach lady when I first came to Jacksonville, and I got an opportunity to speak with her and meet her, and she talked about the history of the beach and what
those epic dreads.
yes, yes,
Epic. She had such a style about her.
she did, and I loved her spirit, and her spirit remains there. Anytime I do go and visit or even do a shoot, her presence is there, and she certainly can be felt. And I'm grateful that she fought hard to preserve that.
She was
area.
instrumental in bringing it, bringing it to life.
Yes.
Although it was donated by a family, she came there after traveling the world.
Right.
She traveled the world.
She was an opera
a lot of
singer.
people don't know that.
Yeah, she was an opera singer.
Yeah. Spent time in Europe, many years.
Yep.
New York City, like I say, in the opera and just living the arts life.
Yes, she did.
And then she came back to Jacksonville and breathed new life into American Beach and stayed there.
And became an
She stayed there.
activist and an advocate.
Yep.
Yep.
she left the limelight and settled in American Beach and made it her home.
Yes, she did.
That was a beautiful thing. There's also some other stories, with the Kingsley Plantation out there, that family dynamic that went on there, and several other settlements around the eastern coast, starting in Central Florida, really, but primarily the larger groups would gather around Northeast Florida, and like you say, up into South Carolina. There was a large Gullah Geechee settlement in Jacksonville,
Right.
that was nearly destroyed during the Great Fire in the 1900s. Pretty much wiped out, and it was a thriving area. And then you have several other areas, like La Villa, that was, when we got Mayor Payton, he decided to tear down all the row houses over there.
And I remember coming to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
I came here in '97 to be stationed here, and I remember seeing those row houses.
Oh, yeah.
On State Street.
They didn't all have to be torn down. They didn't
No,
have
and
to.
I know
Some of
and
them did.
I remember the row houses being there, and I remember seeing the Ritz, and I used to imagine what it once was, and then left Jacksonville, went to the West Coast, came back, and they rebuilt it, and that was a great thing to see. So I was thinking like, well, maybe La Villa will come back, but
Right.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
I am disappointed, and
there's also the music scene that was heavy down there, the
Yes.
jazz music scene.
yes.
The black community.
That was part of the Chitlin circuit.
Exactly, the Whetstonian. The Whetstonian down there.
The Chitlin circuit, and you had greats, Cab Calloway, you name it. They came through here and they performed and
Right.
stayed in the hotels, which is now D-Lo Studios, if I'm correct. That was one of the black hotels, and many great artists, jazz artists of that time, stayed there. So all of that history is it just seemed like it's just wiped out, and it's disappointing.
it was.
Jacksonville is good for that. Wiping out their history.
Tear down stuff. Tear down stuff.
Tear down and not repurpose.
You're right. It has been our history, and since the consolidation happened, it just ruined the downtown area. It really did. When they consolidated, everybody just scattered, and we had urban sprawl, the suburban sprawl, and it added to the segregation of the races in town. It really did. It changed the dynamic of the flow of downtown. So many businesses went out of business. And over the years, that's continued to happen. The large shopping center on the north side has pretty much put the nail in the coffin for Gateway Shopping Center. Gateway used to be the place to go. When I was growing up, that's where we went to go shopping, either there or some of the music stores downtown. My father played guitar too, and I was raised in a musical family, and we went to all the music stores on North Main Street. And then I was in the Walgreens at the diner counter, been there, that has history from the race riots that were in Jacksonville.
Axe Handle Saturday.
Axe Handle Saturday, which stemmed from the boys and girls sitting at the lunch counter at the Walgreens.
The sit-ins. And many students and kids at that time that were protesting ended up becoming political figures, local political figures, and state officials and teachers, and they wanted to continue to make a change within the community. So I learned about that upon coming to Jacksonville, living downtown, and I love history, so I wanted to learn a whole lot more, and my mother-in-law shared with me about Axe Handle Saturday, and I had never heard of it.
Yep. And
so it was just these little things, and even like Black Wall Street, things that Rosewood, I could go on, like, that has happened and a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, and the riots that they had on the east side of town there, what they still call the east side, had another name back then though. But anyway, when Hans Tansler was mayor, there were race riots down there, and nobody talks about that.
No.
And forever and ever and ever, I was much older, probably my mid-20s before I ever heard about Axe Handle Saturday. And I was a kid then when it happened. And my parents never talked about any of that. When you had the Kent State shootings and the race riots downtown Jacksonville and the Axe Handle Saturday and other instances, Selma, none of that stuff was taught to us. And it didn't come around to us, a lot of us, until we got into, late high school, early college, those kinds of things, when you got curious about what the hell's going on. I was raised on the north side in a predominantly white neighborhood, and I can tell you, the whole time I was in elementary school, San Mateo Elementary, up through 6th grade, it was before they started putting kids in different grade level schools, This was before middle schools. We didn't even have middle schools then. You went from elementary school into junior high, and we had the entire time I went to school at San Mateo Elementary, there were a total of 2 black students.
Wow.
And they were both my good friends. We played baseball together. And I'm still in touch with them to this day. and I'm an old fart. I turned 60 last year. I'll be 61 this year. So I tell you, I'm so glad you were able to stop by and chat with us.
Yes.
We're gonna stay in touch with you. We'll make sure that your links from your art and whatever you want us to do, we can put it on the descriptions on our YouTube channel. We'll make sure everybody knows.
Awesome.
Okay.
That'd be great.
All right.
All right.
Listen, so glad you could join us on the Contrast Project today. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Like, share, comment. And don't forget to go to the YouTube channel, like, share, comment, hit the subscribe button, and ding that bell. See ya. Peace.